Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for everyone around the world. Apologies for the late start on getting the stream going live. NVIDIA and Windows have joined forces to ruin life as we know it. Welcome everyone. Again, apologies for the late start. The race is underway. We're about 15 laps in. Currently focusing in on the leader, James Juba, leading the way here at round 4 at the VSRA European Endurance Series. Round 4 at Imola. So we're already 20 minutes in here. Unfortunately, we've missed some action. There was a bit, obviously the start is one of the most exciting, and again, we do apologize for missing out on that. But we are underway, and it looks like we've already had some action where drivers were hotly contesting positions. The 224 of Ian Lonchar and 221 of Nicolas Abate apparently had some contact not too long ago. Looks like around lap 6. So actually not from the start of the race. There's some issues there, and now there's been a second report from Mari Sutherland between, looks like 2 of the drillers' car, or no, Tom Davison of one of the drillers, 18, and Mika Hakimi in the 17. They're saying that the 17 ran the 18. And now they're coming in hot and heavy, so quite a bit for the stewards to look through. We'll keep an eye on that on the incident reports and see what's going on. But it looks like the number 22 driller's car had some issues early on where they had to drop to the back of the field. And there is an issue with the number 39 gentleman drivers. They had to drive-through penalty early on for continuing to qualify after the session had ended. So let's take a look at what's going on in the field. Obviously, lots of drillers here, and before we do that, let's make sure that everyone is able to enjoy the stream. Stand by as I pull that up. Bear with me, everyone. Okay, so obviously we're following along with James Juba, the leader, by quite a bit at the moment. Looks like he is well ahead of Seawolf Ride Ibrahim Khan by, well, it looks like about 5 seconds or so, as he's desperately running through traffic, but you can't see, there he is in the background in the Seawolf Net Race Motorsport. 47, you can see him coming up and around. He's digging deep into that GTE traffic in the background. So we'll hop back there and take a look. So Ibrahim Khan, and doggedly being chased by Mantis Rikas for 2nd place. So this battle going strong. Hakimi getting a penalty. Looks like it's probably for a cut course unless it was just assigned. And we had some Ian Lonchar just apparently had gone off. A little bit of damage on the front of that car. Just trying to catch up on some of what's going on here. We'll quickly hop back to that battle with Mantis and Khan. Again, for second place, one of the 5 driller LMPs. And working their way up to the top of the GTE order. Currently, Ernest Lappens is running at the front of the grid there. We'll take a look in just a moment as we watch this group coming up on Yori Gigson, who's just gone a little bit wide there, and surprised to see that he's as far down the field as he is, currently in 6th. A little bit of a touch or maybe just a wiggle there with Rigas and the Corvette. New for this round 4 race, you'll see some of these VSRA cars going around, a couple different liveries. Now they're not all on the same racing team. We'll try and clear up some of that confusion later, but a few new entries, some familiar names across some of those rides as different team dynamics change, but there are quite a few new ones, and you can see we've got a 30-car field, so a very busy track today here at Imola as we do our back-to-backs on some of the Italian Grand Prix. So it looks like Rikas has now kind of lost the back of that Seawolf car as they parse their way through some of the last remaining cars in GTE. And Hollows has just gone off. The VSRA BMW. Trying to see what happened there. It looks like he just kind of went off himself. Hollow's back in 10th place, so he actually did not lose too much there on him. And he was fighting with Vermeer, so there might have been some possible contact. And a DQ from Sansano. Cameron Sassano, just trying to find where that car is on the spotter's guide. And there are quite, it looks like there might be a few extra cars here that are not on spotter's guide, but we'll keep an eye on that. Massimiliano Ferrari back in 15th here, just had a bit of an off. Hopefully having a better run here than they did at Monza during their premiere race. Again, good looking car, very interesting color scheme. They definitely struggled at Monza, and you can already see that they've got some damage from early race incidents they are running. So far, the Sansano ride is the only one that is currently showing as DQ, so that might have been just a disconnect. So let's go back down the order, head up here into 4th place, Che Hatch, running around here, and he has about a 4-second gap ahead of him to Mantis Rikas. Hop back again, one of the new VSRA rides from Vito Color. It's Lazaros Flipikos. And just looking at his gap here, it's a fairly sizable one by about 10 seconds or so. Not far behind him is Joey Rolick with one of the other mini drillers Motorsport running in the 21, so he's feeding through some of that GTE traffic now. He's got a sizable gap of almost 10 seconds as well. This LMP field really stretching out. Not far behind him in one of the MRTI melee rides, getting chased by Sam Bentley, is McKibben. Riley McKibben just going around Yori there in that Corvette. Bentley getting a very strong cut across the nose of that Corvette. Ooh, a little bit of a slide. So McKibben really pushing to stay ahead of Bentley, who's teamed up this time, not with the typical Martin Hemmingson that we were used to seeing, but he's running with Danny Robbins this time in the Drillers Motorsports or Esport Academy car. So McKibben looking a little bit nervous through some of these corners as he's doing his best to navigate traffic. Sam Bentley on the charge, as we see Pasquale getting a little bit off in that ride. It's Christian Pasquale and the Blue Bolt Academy, looking very similar to the Scuderia Adriatic cars, but they are not the same. Different teams, just in a slightly different shade of blue. Tight little circuit here at Imola. It's very windy, very interesting geographical changes. Lots of up and down hill through a lot of this. Imola from starting from the early 1950s by the Ferrari family. Now they're headed downhill on the back side of the course. McKibben really under pressure now for that seventh place position. His teammate, Che Hatch, is up in fourth. And we'll see if Bentley, a little bit of a wiggle. He's trying to go defensive. I think Bentley's going to have him here as they head down into that complex. As they go through Tamburello. Gibbon looking again down through Villeneuve. This will take him up to the slow corner of Tosa as they climb the hill onto the backside of the course. There's Ferrari going a little bit wide, possibly related to the Ferraris, not sure. So it looks like that position is gained and going to be held by Bentley. They start heading downhill out through Alta. Or sorry, that's Mirali. Now through Alta. Hakimi coming out of the pits. Now it's still a little bit early for any kind of regular pit stops to be had unless it's part of a strategy. Typically, you don't see an undercut in the endurance side of things, even at only 4 hours. Let's continue on through the field. Before we do, it looks like DJ Adhikari got a penalty. Pon Robert is now out of the pits. Of course, that might have just been a false detection there. Yeah, he was just coming by the pits. So some of those, again, apologies if I'm calling those mistakenly, just because going off of some software here helps when you got a co-commentator to kind of hold the airwaves while you're checking things out, but we'll do what we can. So Pon Roberts back in 9th. He's usually up the field a bit more from what we've seen in the past. So he might have just had a not great start. He's on the back half of the field of these 13 LMP2s. And you can see in the background Marcelo Tocco not far behind, just a couple seconds away. Tocco back here in one of the 3 Seawolf entries. Those net race cars looking very good, very stylish. Well done to that team. And their painters. And actually, well done to all the teams in bringing their A game with their paint jobs. Very good-looking cars on the grid. Down in 11th place behind him is one of the remaining Drillers rides. Tom Davison running on this one. He's ahead of Mika Hikimi. Mika is about 16 or 17 seconds back behind, so no pressure there. There's Hakimi there in the blue, dark blue ride. And the only Scuderia Adriatica entry for the LMP2 field. Getting chased by him in last place is Marco Rodriguez, and he actually is Marco Antonio Rodriguez with the Gentleman Racers, or sorry, Gentleman's Drivers. And surprising to see him back there, but we did notice that there was a penalty early on in the race, so I'm sure that's been the cause of their woes for being back there. He's well and way behind Hakimi by over 15 seconds, so there is really no pressure there. Looks like Che Hatch is into the pits now. When he misses his stop, Che's running second, although that won't last. Oh, Hempez off track. So big moment there. Looks like that's around the Minerali portion of the track. We'll see if we can yeah, we'll get back there. So he's coming around the corner there. Looks like he's all alone, so this is going to be an isolated incident where he might just overbrake. Yeah, very tricky double corner through there. But he got it back and going again. Tempest currently running 7th in that Porsche 911. Mika Hikimi is also in. So it looks like cars are coming in for the LMP2 field. It's about time, maybe slightly earlier than anticipated, but only by about a lap or so. And then we see back behind there, oh, Wozniak is off as cars are scrambling everywhere. The LMP2 is coming out of the pits. It's one of the Scuderia rides. Back and take a look at what happened with him there. He was just up ahead where we were focusing on as we were talking about the car up in front of him. So there's a flash of the lights letting him know they're there. He tries to dive to the inside. Oh, there was contact with that. Oh, and a hard hit by the Pascal car. Yikes. Right on the corner there too, so hopefully no issues with that drive. Keep an eye on it. So Pon Robert also out of the pits now. Ernest Lappin's our leader in having some issues. It looks like it might, oh, okay, so maybe just some connection problems there for a second. That is what we were picking up. Hallow's ahead of Crooks. Oh, and he's around. Same corner, very tricky corner. Part of it can almost feel like it's counter camber through some of that to IQ Minerali. Just watching Hollis here to see if maybe he's going to have some more issues. This is later in the run, so those tires are probably feeling a bit worn as they head on to Bossa Straight. front stretch and through turn 1 and towards Tamburello. He's getting chased. Is that for position? Vermeer, yes it is. So that TCS off Porsche is right on his tail. So they're going to have some traffic from Toko behind. That's going to block any passing attempt. They're going to head through the Villeneuve chicane and then down to Tosa before they head uphill. So Vermeer not able to capitalize on that. He smartly held off. Interesting choice of matte color for the VSRA cars. Strongly contrasted by the nice Fresnel type glow coming off of the TCS off car, but just a focus in graphics, probably not really necessary. Watching this battle unfold as Davidson now comes up behind. Tom's down in 10th, and we're having a peak now for the pass. 3 wide, nice formation run down to the line. Doesn't help Vermeer at all, although he's going to have position on the inside as they go through 1 and head down into Tamburello. Makes the pass. Alright, so he's now up to 10th place, sending Hollows back to 11th, who's been struggling a little bit with that car. At least we saw that slide out. Okay, back to the top of the board here for GTE. So there is your leader in the GTE class, Ernest Lappens. Starting lap 28, I believe. No, sorry, 27. I forgot the line is back towards the back. So he's got a fairly sizable lead right now. The youngster has a 26-second gap over Hugo Tempez, so he's been able to really open up. Not sure what happened at the beginning to be able to allow that. But he seems to have a pretty strong control of that BMW. We'll see how that carries on through the rest of the race, and if his teammate is able to carry on and provide the same kind of pace for that car. Ernest with Kaba Racing and Tony Nickpon, who we've seen before. He'll be in probably around the halfway point. And he is a competent driver, so no doubt he'll be able to keep a strong pace, assuming that Ernest doesn't do anything to bugger the advantage he has now. Down in 2nd place is Hugo Tempez, flying in that Porsche 911. 81 for the OSR Endurance team. Hugo accompanied by Tomas Garcia, another very competent driver as he leaps the curves. Looking down at the end of the grid, not too far behind, that is Christian Pasquale, who is getting chased by Sean Jacobs. So the battle for the podium positions is definitely on. And there's Yori Dixon, who's back in 5th and a lot closer to where we're used to seeing him. And it looks like Linus Lundvall is just taken up position ahead of Nelson. Oh, who's that off track there? Might have been Nelson getting wide at the corner there. Lunval with Solo Racing, accompanied by Eric Strand. And he might be under attack by the OSR sister car, that Corvette. Both of these drivers pushing it really hard through this early section of the track. Out through Villeneuve and up to Tosa. They're going to have some pressure from the Gramelli car. Oh! McKibben throwing that thing around. Up through the kink to Paratella, turn 8. He's right in front. Lunval gets a face full of LMP2. And that's going to slow him up enough. Nelson looking on the outside of that corner. It's a very tricky spot. We've seen a couple guys go off already. John smartly backs off, but he's not done yet as they come up into the Alta. A little bit of a leap over the curb. Nelson lost a little bit of the ground there. Solo car, nice use of chrome. Good to see that these new shader materials are being utilized. Really livens up the field. Gives some eye candy as they come onto the front stretch out of Rivazza. And completing the lap and still not able to remount that charge that he had before, although he's looking down into turn 1 too far back. Through Tamburello. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get quite close enough. They've got about another 10 or 15 minutes left of fuel in these cars. Now, if Nelson's not able to do much right now, he does have those LMP2s in the background, and you can see one of them just went off. Looked like the Scudera car. Who was that? Trying to find who that was. It's not Hallows again. I think that might have been Hakimi. Yeah, it was, and it looked like he was just off on his own going through that chicane portion of the track. Now Hakimi looks to be running in last place, 12th on the grid. Pon Robert still has not returned. So he works his way through that corner there. I'm trying to see who that is. He's going to be holding up Mantis Rikas. Who's still under attack from Khan, although a little bit of the ways back. Though he hasn't fallen off too much, and then Che Hatch is now closed in on that group. On board with Che. Looking ahead, he's still got a little bit of work to do, and as the two ahead of him get deep into traffic. Corner's always tricky because it's coming uphill. It almost seems banked like you can take it faster than what you probably should. Hakimi's still struggling up ahead. Probably damaged those tires quite a bit from some earlier racing action. Now we've got Vrolik, who's who just made up a position. So he's gone by Rodriguez up to P6, and is that Yes, this is for position coming up on the two VSRA cars. Lazaros Filipakos. Filipakos is, these are all three for position right here. So the LMP2 field, uh-oh, that was VSRA car holding, oh no, he went into the pits. Okay, so Rodriguez in. Sam Bentley, who wasn't far behind all of this, and he's going to make up the position. Ooh, and another DNF. Adhikari, that's trying to find where he is. So that's actually down the GTE field. Adhikari. Oop, we got an attack here. Ibrahim Khan in third place. So I'm trying to find out what happened to Adhikari. That was for that red Porticat Racing Corvette. His teammate Costa would be upset. Oh, and the TCS off car is off. Off track and out of there. Like he was kind of in the thick of things. So a lot going on here. And he just locked it up and went right off. And he seems to really be struggling. They'll probably need to be coming in soon. Unless they already came in. A bait is, I think he's been in there. Oof. Are really out of shape. And now Linus Lindvall is coming up behind him. That's not for position. Lindvall is up in 7th. So lots going on. 2 DNFs, 1 car in the garage. So we've got Pon Robert, Adhikari, and Cinsano all off track right now. Tom Davison having some issues. Looks like he might have stalled it. There's that same spot. I believe that's Minerali. Take a look at what happened to Tom Davison. So again, all alone. Yep, it's that same spot. There's just so much speed carried into that corner. Ooh, yeah, and he stalled it. Try getting it going. It looked like he actually had it saved. Didn't stall it, and then went to go forward and dropped the clutch too early. Tom Davidson falling back to 9th. Not having a great race. Driller is hoping to have a strong finish as he pulls up behind GTE leader Lappins. Ooh, and it looks like something happened here with TCS off, and John Nelson, who was up there fighting for position. Nelson in 8th. This looks like it could have been spicy. My guess is Bate, ooh, yeah. Forcing Joey Vrolik a little bit wide there. I mean, he was online, so that's what the GTE cars are supposed to do. Yeah, he's right around. And does he make contact here? No, they're just very close together. Okay, so you're just trying to skirt by before any other drivers were up there catching up to him. So Bate is having a major struggle with that 911. Crook's trying to come up and go by. He's very close on the inside. Should not have to fight for position as he's up in 9th, and oof. Way off track. So he must have done some either damage to the car, though it doesn't look like that car has any damage currently, or he's just really beaten up the tires. Off at that same corner, I think that's Minerali. Let's go up to Alta. So you can see Vermeer coming up. I believe that's Vermeer in 10th place. The stablemate TCS off car back behind. Oh, and we're getting quite a few pit stops now. So Yori's in. Bates in. Nice, Lindvall just lost a position. Ernest Lappins goes by. Should see them coming into the pit shortly. It is about time. You know, it's going to be plus or minus a couple laps. Hallows is now in. Looks like that's Nelson who's also in the pits. GTE making their rounds. They should be able to do about 3 stops for the race. Pasquale getting passed by Tempez. And that's actually for the lead, not the effective lead, but... Oh! Who's that around? Tempez, it was Tempez. So Tempez was leading and just looped it on his own. Fortunately not too far away from the pits, but clearly suffering from tires going away. So a lot happening on this just under 5-kilometer circuit. It's 5 kilometers, which is it's fairly lengthy, but it always seems so much shorter. It's just a very fast circuit. Obviously, a lot of history here, particularly with Formula One. So it's a track that's made to drive fast. Jay Hatch still in 4th place after some of those pit stops cycle through, although you can see he's still not far behind podium runner Khan. Coming by the pits Corvette. Yori's still holding in 5th place. Haven't checked yet to see if that group has gone into pit yet. Around Tosa and up the hill. We're getting pushed a little bit wide by Rodriguez in the background. like, let's see, Mikhail Wozniak is out. Alex Tunbridge is off and away. Tunbridge running a GTE. We're used to seeing him in LMP2 for a lot of his races, but he's changed it up. And he's actually running with fellow coordinator in that DDoS BMW. Used to seeing them run in a McLaren. Obviously, that's for GT3, but guess you could say there are some similarities between the two cars. Maybe not. But DDoS is currently trying to find him down in 12th place. And he's looks not doing as well as we'd anticipate. Doesn't look like there's really any damage on that car. Tempest and Jacobs swapping spots. You see Jacobs in the background there in one of the VSRA Corvettes. Tosa. So he's really pulled away there. So this is that tricky double right-hander. A lot of drivers carrying a lot of speed through that particular section and just getting off track. There's quite a bit of runoff, but not too much. Usually just enough to save a bit of a squirrely run. Hard over the curb. Alta seeing quite a bit of abuse. It's a good section of the track. Lots of run up through the downhill into Ravaza. Crooks is now into the pits. He was up to third, although he's going to fall away. Probably come out here in about 6th place, maybe. We'll see where Linus Lundvall is able to catch him. There's Lundvall and Nelson right in tow, so this is all for position. Ooh, when they get together, really push hard. Oh, the BMW, it's not an advantage there. Comes away smarting. Doesn't look like there was too much contact to do damage. He's trying to hold position, and Nelson was just coming through and not having any of it. So he just pushed right on by. And Crooks gets robbed. So he was up into 3rd place, fell back, was effectively in 5th coming out, but got quickly passed. It looks like Ibrahim Khan is still holding 3rd place, just got a flash up. Oh, he's received a penalty. We'll have to do a quick catch up here on some of the penalties that have been issued. We'll see if that gets served or not. So Cooks actually is catching up quite a bit here. Sam Bentley trying to sling around the outside as they go through the downhill section towards Ravaza. That kind of stumbled him just a little bit, so he's lost those 2 ahead. Slightly fresher tires now that it's come up to pressure and temp. Oh, and we've got to look for a pass. Linus Lundvall, he gets it done. So Nelson now up into 17th place overall, 5th with class. Good clean passes, good close racing between the solo entry and the OSR Endurance Corvette. But I don't think it's over because they're both very strong. They've managed to sort of stay linked up for quite a while. And that Millennial Falcon's car is not falling away. He didn't spend a whole lot of time licking his wounds. He's just back there kind of brooding from the contact that he was forcefully given. Now whether or not he's going to overdrive that car is another question. When we're having a bit of a look, Linval's sporting some of his own damage on the front. Down to Rivazza. Such a racy track, no real slow corners. Nothing where you get jacked up. You just get to really hold a lot of pace through all of these turns. You can hear that BMW not far behind. Of course, you can hear that Corvette roaring ahead. There's Crooks. That snouty grill. Funny, for being a British team, that car is painted awfully like a certain flag. I swear that car was Estonian. Kind of keep an eye on this battle as they head through Alta. Touching the curves. It looked like Nelson might have been a little bit wide. So all within about a second and a half of each other. This little battle group hasn't really dispersed too much. Nelson might be starting to eke away slightly as Lundvall comes back. They just keep moving around. That little off there coming on onto the straight wasn't helping things. Long stretch at Bassa. One of the few long, mostly straight areas. Crooks is starting to have a look. On board now with Crooks, so you can see that gap laying out in front of him. Through Villeneuve chicane, and now up through one of the slowest parts of the track at Tosa, climbing the hill. That tricky section at Murali. We've got LMP2s coming around. There goes the MRTI Grimelli of McKibben, chased by Juba. And Juba actually still holding the lead fairly well. So he's going to come up and pass McKibben. Put him a lap down here shortly. And watching some of that, they kind of put Nelson out in a poor position going out of that final turn. And indeed, that has cost him just a little bit of time. One thing about this track being so quick and flowing is, as you can see, as Crooks comes around the inside and he gets the pass done. So reclaiming a spot. Lunval isn't finished yet, though he's definitely fallen away. As I was saying, one thing with this track being so flowing as it is, it really allows for the slipstream to go on longer, even through a lot of these corners. It is broken up by some of those chicanes, but the cars don't slow down too terribly much. And truly, it's just that one corner at Tosa that they went through at the very bottom of the bell end of the saxophone-shaped course. Looks like Toko's taken position away. So that was a pass on Rodriguez for... I'm trying to find Toko. Ah, there we go. Showing just Marco Antonio Rodriguez. So 10th and 11th. We've got Tempez and Jacobs. We have a bit of an off in the background by that Grimelli car. McKibben and Bentley look like they sort of had some moments. I'm sorry, that was Juba. Sam Bentley showing an off track at the same time, so of course both drivers being in Driller's cars doesn't help. Thanks, guys. So Tempez holding the copper place on the podium. And at this point, so we've got Ernest Lappins in first, and then Jori Gigson, who's now in second place. That pink Corvette just going off screen. Now, because Imola is a little bit narrower than some other tracks, the Grimelli car off track, he was wiggling an awful lot, so I'm wondering if he's got damage from that previous off. MRTI Grimelli was enjoying a fairly decent season so far. Certainly more successful than we've seen some of their races in the past. They're really starting to come up through the field. Che Hatch obviously running third. And the battle's on between Toko and Rodriguez as they wind their way out through the Timburello chicane area complex up through Villeneuve. So this battle obviously not over. I'm not sure if Toko made a mistake or if Rodriguez truly was just pulling back on to the back of him. Maybe Rodriguez had some unsettled moments prior which allowed that Seawolf's car to go by. One hour and 14 minutes, 13 minutes in the book. Keeping an eye on this fight for 9th place. McKibben is out of the pits, as is Hakimi. Rikus might have gone into the pits, we'll see here. Yes, it does look like that. So Rikus is in. As is Che Hatch. So another round of stops starting to happen for these drivers in the LMP2s. Rodriguez is keeping him on the back foot. Togo trying to get a nice run out of the Villeneuve complex. Up through Tosa. It looks like Rodriguez has got it done. He's starting to pull away. So unfortunately, live weather does not seem to be working unless it truly is 29 degrees Celsius. Hardly believable, even if it is later in April, just because of the weather being so odd around the world at this time. But it's a bright, sunny mid-afternoon race so far. So Toko's going to kind of fall away a little bit here as he slings by Tempest, sitting in third. Tempest getting chased by Jacobs. Khan is now in. That's second place. Seen a lot of drivers well off of center, not hitting their marks into their pit stop. Filipowko's coming in, as is Joey Vrolik, a little bit close there. Not sure what he's doing. And Juba, our leader, effective and real going out. We saw his teammate Joey Vrolik back there. He's in the pits. He just got passed by Sam Bentley. So pretty close here for the lead. And this group ahead, Wozniak, this is going to get exciting. These Porsches really taking up the entire track. Says, pardon me, guys. That's some interesting stuff you've got going on there. So I believe that's Sarazi and others. I saw Wozniak. Yeah, so that's, I believe that's all for position. So you got Wozniak in the Scuderia ride, right at the back. Vrolik just lost a position to Rodriguez, so he managed to get by him through the pits. Very close battle here between Sarazi and Wozniak. Ooh, little wiggle up ahead. Sam Bentley now getting into this mix, really close up the inside. And Hugavine is well off course there. That's also for position, so all three of these guys are fighting. 1, 2, 3, right there. On board with Wozniak. Rika slotting in as they head into the complex. Sorry, the Villeneuve chicane. And they're trying back into Tosa. Boy, this thing has been going on for a couple laps now. So Hugavine is, oh, there goes Che Hatch, back down to fourth now. And he is chasing for position. I believe that was Sam Bentley up ahead. Lots of really good battles going on, and who is that? It's Ferrari off track. Might have just been getting out of the way. Some problems with that Ferrari. Porsche, actually, but... Okay, I thought he might have stopped. Massimiliano Ferrari. Not really sure what's happening. And then Hugavine is out under attack. He gets passed. And he's back on the offensive. The old over-under and a little bit of a wiggle from Sarazi. That's going to leave the door open for Wozniak. Here he's poking around the backside of that car. Great battle going on. Still have 2 hours and 40 minutes left, guys. They wouldn't listen anyway. Movie now just trying to capitalize on the advantage now and hold this as they head down. I believe that's through Villeneuve. So 3 laps in a row up through Tosa, and still you could throw a blanket over him. On board with Niels. And they're going to have traffic in a second as Ibrahim Khan and the Seawolf car is coming up as they head downhill towards the backside of the track. There's that tricky section near Ali. Toko and one of the other Seawolf cars coming up, giving a flash of the lights, letting them know that, hey, I'm here. And Niels Hugavine is getting a little bit of breathing space. Looks like Nelson and Crooks are having a bit of a moment. We'll quickly look at that situation. And he's fighting right back, so Crooks able to take advantage as they were coming out of the last corner. Oh, Nelson off in the sand trap, right into Che Hatch. Vol taking a position up. I believe that was back to Sarazi losing a spot. This battle's still on. Hugavine able to take advantage as these two fight it out. Great battles out through Tamburello, through Villeneuve. Sarazi he's looking a little lackluster for pace now. And this is just for 8th, 9th, and 10th. Can Sarazi do anything to regain on Wozniak? And that Adriatica car through the tricky right-hander, double rights. Oh no, and Hugavine is off. Goodbye, Hugavine. Yes, good job not pulling out into traffic. Oh no, and Joey's around as he tries to stop. Ferrari has DNF'd, by the way, while this is happening. Joey raging inside that helmet now. I'm assuming he wears a helmet. He probably would. Wow, okay, so everything is going off now. Let's take a look real quick at where everyone is on the track. Let's see if there are any other battles spicing up. Ernest Lappian's now almost a minute ahead of Yori. But Jacobs is not far behind him, as you can see that gap there. And this is all for position, so the two Corvettes leading the Porsche as they head down the backside of the circuit. Into Rivasa. Tempest very close. Those two Corvettes thrumming up through the front stretch. So Sam, no, that's Rigas. Man, all you drillers look alike. Easily gets past, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now is Jacobs. Making any ground as we go on board with him. Sean Jacobs not far behind. Yori's under some serious pressure. We're used to seeing that pink Corvette dominating quite a bit, although Lappins has been putting on a clinic. Thought there might have been an LMP2 for as much as he was staying over on the side. Kevin snaking his way around those two. Out through Mirali. Which is proving to be one of the trickier parts of the track. So there are both Grimelli cars ahead. Jay Hatch, after taking a hit from the Corvette back on the front side of the circuit, just an innocent bystander, still holding third, although Ibrahim Khan is likely to be not far behind this. I think you can hear him now. So Yori not, yes, there he is, not too far in the background. Certainly getting larger in the mirror. So make a pass. Tempest hasn't gotten too far behind these two, although it looks like he's mostly just sort of holding position. I say that as he aggressively works his way through Tamburello. Out through Villeneuve, we've got checking real quick. It looks like Rodriguez has lost a position. He's now down to 6th after he'd gained all those spots. Passed by that man just going out of frame there, Filipakos. Lazares, there he goes out through Villeneuve. Back in the background, the unfortunate sight of some previous disasters back in 1994. Sure, many of you are familiar with an unfortunate weekend. So looking at Linus Lundvall, he's in 6th. It looks like he's lost Crooks. Oh, there goes Crooks. So yeah, that gap has opened up quite a bit. So if we catch up here to Crooks, if we can find him, there he is. Filipakos up ahead. Now, how far is the gap? I believe that was that Nelson? No, Tempest who'd gone through. No, so he's past Nelson, who'd given him the unkindly whack when Nelson and Lundvall were going at it. So Nelson's fallen back behind those two. Kind of missed that. So 3 DNFs, Ferrari, Adhikari, and Ponrobert. They are all 3 out and have not rejoined. Cameron Sansano is in the garage, so they might still be struggling with the car, or they've just given up trying to rejoin. I don't believe Ferrari might have been on purpose. It looked like they might have had some issues with the car and they were just trying to stay out of the way. Might be having some issues with Toko. Looks like it was just a small glitch with the connection to the server. And, oh, Bentley is around. Sam Bentley, nice recovery. And Hollows is also around. That Bentley spin, though, what happened there? Try and go back and see it. Sam's down in 7th place. So this is that familiar corner. Wow, he's got a ton of speed in there, but he managed to catch it. Oh, so did he not even go around? Might have just been the camera angle. Yeah, I think that was just the camera angle. So Sam Bentley, uncharacteristically down in 7th place. And having a bit of a moment. Hallows seems to be doing okay, down in 11th place. He also had an off. He was not able to recover nearly as quickly. Rodriguez, you can see, just getting out of the pits now. There's Alex Tunbridge, also having an uncharacteristically poor race. So this, I believe, is for position. That's Tempez, and is that Jacobs? Yes, it is, and Yori Gigson. So we've got 2, 3, and 4 right together again. So either traffic came into play and Jacobs slowed, or Tempez was really able to just work his way up there through solid pace for the last few laps. Alex Tunbridge not in this for position. He's down in 12th in the class. Yori going off track just ahead. On board as he's just struggling with that thing. Oh, and we have a problem back there. What was that? A bait. So the TCS off car. Quite a fair bit of damage to that. Looks like the damage came after that incident. Whatever it was that caused him to go off. So out through Minerali, no issue there. Is it through Alta? Oh yeah, he just straightens out the corner. So not quite as exciting as we thought it was, but still a lot of damage on that car. So Bate running down in 14th place. And some problems. You can see Toko now coming up through. Let's take a look back at what's going on here. Jacobs back and around, so he was able to get that position back. Or keep, sorry, not take it back, but keep the Porsche at bay. And now he's starting to close in on the back of the pink Corvette ahead of him. On board looking ahead. Heading back. Tempez, that very tricky section. So getting quite a few 3-packs throughout this race. All three drivers seem to be fairly evenly matched at this point in their runs. Tempest starting to fall off again. He seems to be gaining and dropping in spurts. And they will have a Sam Bentley on them here shortly. Oh no, Ernest Lappin's in a slow driving warning. Looks like he's recovered, so that must have just been a very short-lived situation. Let's check on his times. He is currently, Lappin's now well over a minute ahead of the rest of the field. All the LMP2s seem to have spread out fairly well. Rodriguez is closing back up to Davidson, who's in ninth place. Otto Skypala is catching up to Tunbridge. That's for 24th overall, 12th for the class. Take a look there. There's Tunbridge. Yeah, so that's, yep, there's Otto right behind him. So very unusual to see the VSRA crew, sorry, DDoS, my apologies, running so far behind the rest of the pace. I mean, certainly there are many fast drivers here that Tunbridge would have some difficulty with on the best days, but he's no slouch, and being that far in the field, very unusual. Oh, and we have a change for position. So the Pitts Corvette falls down the order to third place as Jacobs takes up second. So VSRA is now running 1 and 2 in GTE. I should double check that. So it's actually Typhoon Race, no, I'm sorry, not Typhoon. Kaba Racing is the #1 VSRA entry, and that's SMR Corkscrew Motorsport for Sean Jacobs. Binsberg and his teammate should be coming in on the next stop, which is in about another 20 minutes or so. So I think Yori might just be losing pace. It doesn't look like he's backing off at all. He seems to be pushing it just as much as he can. Now you can do that with the LMP2s, because that's how you have to drive them. With the GTE field, you generally see a little bit more conservation of tires. The drivers will just ease it back a little bit, try and make them last, try and draw out those lap times just a touch, so that way overall your stint sections are shorter. If you work it just right, you can leapfrog your competition while they're in the pit stop. So you don't even really have to. You don't have to fight for it like you. Ooh, and it looks like Tunbridge is off. A bad day gone worse. That's that first complex. I'm guessing that he was all alone. It looks like he is through here. So Otto goes by, so he just gets in the grass as he's trying to hold him to the side. So Tunbridge falls all the way down to 13th. Has to be a frustrating race. And Juba looks like he had a bit of a moment not too long ago. He's flashing the lights. That might have been an issue with a bait who's ahead of him. Let's see if we can figure out what happened. It's pulling up the replay for us here. Ooh, yeah, so just catching at the end, so he kind of outbrakes himself for the TCS ride. Not really any fault of that car. So he's up and by them again. James a little bit frustrated by that, especially being the leader. And now take it easy, James. Don't overdrive it too much. Juba is now 5 seconds ahead of Mantis Rikas, so he's really pushing that car. And I know I just said that they're meant to be driven flat out, but I mean, you definitely don't want to kill the tires anyway. I mean, you are changing them out each time, but I mean, he's clearly just trying to push this thing to the very edge. Otto Scapalla is, he had a bit of a moment. Oh, Hollow's now getting passed. Hugaveen making his way by that VSRA BMW. So that's for 10th and 11th. So kind of saw that coming on the splits. Didn't get a chance to get there, but Hugaveen was catching after he had his moment earlier. A bait having another off, and that's just in front of the GTE leaders. Drivers really pushing the limits there. Is that the Grimelli car behind? I believe that's McKibben. I think that car has some damage, the way that it just keeps searching around the road like that. Running 8th. If they do have suspension, if they don't, that thing is just driving very unusually. It could just be minor suspension damage. If it is, it could also be just the server connection intermittently making it look like he's weaving a bit more than he actually is. Steering inputs. So it seems to be fairly uniform. The car definitely doesn't look settled, if if nothing else. But yeah, a little bit off there. A lot of cars dropping tires off that side. Oh, and he's around. It was just a matter of time. Hold that brake. Let him by. Let him by. All right, get you going. Up at Tosa. a bit hard to watch. That happens. So where are the battles going around on track? Well, let's take a look at Sarazi. Locks up, so this is for position. I believe that's Nelson in front of him. Yep, John Nelson. So this is for 8th and 9th. These two haven't really crossed swords too much. Just remember, Sarazi was in that battle pack with Wozniak and I believe Lundvall. Nelson looks like he's starting to pull away, just checking that gap. Alex Hallows is about 8/10 of a second behind Hugaveen. He seems to be closing in. So Hugaveen, the other TCS off car, and that's there's Khan, who is in 4th place in the LMP2s as he slinks by. Looking back from Hugaveen to Hallows. Just keeping an eye on this gap. It looks like Alex isn't really able to do too much with it. Seems to be sticking at around 1 second. Big off. Well, that's going to close the gap up for sure. Does get a decent run out through out from Ravazi onto Basu straight. Just seeing what kind of gains that Hallows can get as they head down into the 2-3-4 complex of Tamburello. Not very close as they come up through Villeneuve. Not really much of a change in the gap. But we have seen Hugaveen, well, he's starting to close in just a touch there. We have seen Hugaveen drop some tires off the side of the road, so he's running a bit dodgy. Very uncomfortable coming out of the, I think that's Alta there. And the chase down to Ravazi. Still about 0.8. Once again, off, dipping into the sand trap. Hallows is now right there with him. That was a big loss in time. Does he have him on the inside? He does. No overlap, so he'll take the position away. So Hugaveen, even though he seemed to have been holding, ooh, big slide by Hallows. Can he? They're both very dodgy. That's making McKibben a little bit nervous in the background. He has to dive for the side. Not thrilled about that. But as the LMP2, I mean, you gotta let him fight it out. You know, at least for a corner or so. You can't just bumble your way through and yell at the GTEs. And certainly McKibben being down in 10th, he has no reason to try and force the issue. So Hallows up into 9th. crawling his way into the single digits. Hugavine trying to push that back on. He certainly has the pace, but car control is starting to slip away from him. Oh, and Sarazi, it looks like, has made a pass around Nelson. And Nelson having a moment, a big moment. What happened to him? So he was up in 8th. It was actually just up in front of where we were watching. Just trying to bring that footage back to us, and it looks like it was down in the Alta chicane. There you go. So yeah, the car just gets unsettled. Is that right in front of Khan? And there goes Sarazi as off camera. Nelson just trying to get that thing fired and going again. He might just be waiting for traffic. Yeah, it looks like he was mostly just... I have no idea what's happening here. What was he doing? Oh, he was... seemed to have been stuck? I have no idea what to make of that. Okay, so he was trying to... Very odd. No idea what to make of that. I don't believe he really got any damage. He didn't pop the wing off. It looked like he might have made some contact with the wall when he was backing up, but it wasn't nearly hard enough to lose the wing. Doesn't look like it might have caused some damage, but he might just be squirrely under braking. That was a big loss for him. Hollows probably isn't too far away at this point. Checking about 6 seconds, so yeah, he won't be in camera view hardly at all. So most of these splits have really spread out as some of the stops have taken place, and some of the drivers have either had incidents or they've just sort of found their pace. Really good work by Riza on this track. I know that some drivers were disappointed that they would have to get the DLC, but I do have to say that Riza Studios has done a very phenomenal job putting this together. They always do very quality work. So you got Automobilista running, which they're involved with doing some good work there. But taking some time to still drop some really good packs. If you haven't gotten the packs, I would say they're definitely worth it. What they did with VIR was tremendous. I've actually driven that track, and it's a very, very strong, uncanny, I would say, similarity in the sim to the actual thing. I did it in a Thunder Roadster. Running around in a GT3 is a little different, but still a very solid experience. These guys know their stuff. So a couple cars on pit road. Hakimi and Wozniak. It looks like a different Wozniak. Sorry, not Wozniak. That would be no, Mikael Wozniak. No, Jan Woz. Yeah, sorry, Woznica. Sorry about that, Jan. So driver change there. Oh, Ernest Lappins. He's slowing for pit road. So Ernest is in. So this is going to be the Be stop 2 of 3, should be. These drivers, you can see Yori in the background, so we're about halfway. We should see some driver swaps happening now. So we're going to take a moment and, well, I'm going to step away and take a short break, but I'm going to go ahead and let the cameras do the talking while I will be right back. So stay with the action, and I'll be back shortly. Thank you. back just in time to see Crooks well off track as he gets passed by Sarazi. Try and get that look real quick from Crooks. We'll see where he is. Bear with us as we pull this replay back up. So he'd already lost his wing. Yeah, he carried a ton of speed. We see that happen a lot. Drivers head down into turns way too fast. And he's getting service now, almost a minute in. So Ian Lonchar is now in for that Scuderia ride. Up to 12th. Some things have moved around. Let's see, we've got Juba Woznicka. Reinert is now up to 3rd. Rob Moore. So it looks like actually those two, the Seawolf and the Grimelli rides, are still about the same. So Danny Robbins in 5th. Let's see here. Sasui Emimulin is up into 6th. Sebastian Johansson in 7th. So obviously a lot of driver changes taking place. Carlos Pons, Marius Sutherland, Marcello Tocco, Martin Farkas, and Hakimi. As we see Crooks is back out, looks like that damage is repaired. As Lonchar is by, he's down into 12th, so a huge fall for them. Did not see what incident caused that that initial damage that took the wing off, but there's been something back in this area. So they were running about somewhere around mid-pack before that happened, but you can see just how devastating it was. This field isn't too far spread apart, and you now see Farkas getting a penalty. Just up ahead, so this is for position. I spoke too soon. It is not. It's actually Pascual and Garcia. Eggert, Pascual, Garcia is the order. So Ian Lonchar is not for position, but those two ahead are Reinhardt. And it looks like Sebastian Johansson also having some issues, so they're slowing down just a little bit there. Let's try and get back to that action over here with Pascual and Eggert. So this is for 4th and 5th. These two are right on top of each other. And through Villeneuve, let's see if he's able to get enough of a drive off toward Topaz. Oh, and there's LMP2. It's our leader, James Juba. He needs to be careful with how aggressive he's driving into some of these GTE battles. I know he's flashing the lights, but GTEs have the right of way. Slower traffic as you're approaching, you have to pass them as though they are the same. Wow, and Robbins shoots up through the center. Right on the back of Eggert, trying to look to the inside as they head towards the Alto chicane. Is it gonna be enough room? It's a tough spot to pass. They're leaning on each other, side by side, out of the chicane, down towards Riaza, very close together. Squall will have the inside loop as they head down, but he will be on the opposite side. Does he do the crossover? Beautifully done. Great move. Great move by Pasquale. Great respect in driving by both of those drivers. Eggert giving room, but not any more than he had to, and he's back on the attack as he gets a little bit of a slipstream, a little bit of a bump. He backs out early just so he doesn't shoot off and lose more. Love to see this kind of aggressive close driving without guys taking each other out. Ooh, and see somebody in the background driving off track. It looks like the other Scuderia car. A sister car not doing so well. Ian Lonchar, usually he's a little more planted, so not quite up on what's going on with them. Looks like he might have some damage, certainly slow. Love to see Eggert give another go at 4th place. I don't know if he's got the pace. He's starting to fall away just a little bit. As you see Martin Farkas go by. Ooh, very close. It almost looked like it touched you, just trying to stay off of each other without giving up too much. Martana's down in 11th, so not much to be lost or gained there. He is nowhere near anyone else around him. Hakimi's still almost 40 seconds behind. Farkas is about 30 plus seconds away from anyone ahead of him. So as that battle sort of falls away, Calvin Reiner off track. That's 4th place. And Rob Moore now makes a pass on him. And then we've got a battle back here between Crooks and, is that Ian Lonchar? It is. So he takes that position away without much issue. So Lonchar definitely having some problems. Either he's not comfortable with the car, or he's got damage. Now Crooks does have a fairly strong ride. He did have that damage from before, so I mean he should be able to climb back up a little bit. Nelson has swapped out of this Corvette, and that's actually Jurand Kuzmijic. Slicking by a bait, kind of keeps it on track there. And that was not for position. Bait is down, and Rajir Decline has fallen way back. So the team that was up in podium position, solidly in 2nd or 3rd place, has dropped to almost the back of the grid. My guess is that would have, either they had major damage from some kind of wreck that happened that you guys would have seen, or they had some kind of disconnect. Hakimi having some problems going through the Tamburello portion of the track, that complex early on. And now Setterland has made the move up into, where are you, 8th place. around Calvin Reinert. Reinert falling back after Che Hatch had been up in the top 3. Another podium that was being held on to. But another team that's kind of fallen from grace. Ari Sutherland looking to make up some positions. Oh, and a big incident right there. Garcia, who, again, another team that was doing very well prior to the switch. What could have taken place there? Hakimi was real close by, and it looked like he had been caught up in some of that as well. Getting the replay to load here. And so Garcia just got into the back of Hakimi. Oh, very messy part of the track. So not really meaning to do that. Looked like it was just a bit of an accident on their part. Just kind of misjudged where the LMP2 is going to be coming out of that corner. And Hakimi's been having some issues. Uh-oh, Marius Sutherland also just getting around Hakimi. Looked like he might have been held up. Keeping an eye on this situation here. Hakimi seems to have pace at times, but he's just not able to do much with it. I'm surprised he's still in the car. I can't remember if that's one of the teams that's doing a manual change. Ooh, and Sutherland's off. I know we've seen some teams go through and, excuse me, they'll do the live physical driver change at home. So that might be what's going on here. Let's take a look. So Hakim Amir Hazik is the other driver for Scuderia Adriatica. So if we don't see him in the car, then Hazik is there with him, and they're just doing driver swap outs. Oh, is that Ian Lonchar again? It is, and that's a blind corner coming up over the crest of the hill. So he's trying to stay out of the way of those incoming drivers. So Roger Decline should be able to close in and make the pass on Ian. Roger Decline having some issues still. It's a rare off. right in front of Garcia. And Lauman, so those guys are for position right behind him. On board with Lauman. So this is for 7th and 8th as he slips up the inside. Easily completes the pass. Lauman able to carry quite a bit of speed through the corner as they head down into the tricky double right-hander. Looks like that fight might be over as Lauman scuttles away. So excellent move for position. So far we've seen a lot of good battles for position where they haven't really devolved into straight up crashes or contacts. There have been a few overtakes between classes that have been problematic. Martin Farkas is in. That makes sense. It's actually right on time, so they're able to go around 40 to 45 minutes. That means they should be able to go and potentially get one more pit stop. That might be just outside of range. But if they play their cards right, then they might be able to take advantage. Now, they are down in 11th, which is second to last of the running cars. But they could end up jumping some of these other guys based on fuel savings. Liam Rance now coming in to serve a penalty, it looks like for track extensions. Yeah, just a drive-through, so shame to see that from the lead coordinator. But he's taken his medicine, down in 10th. We saw Tunbridge struggling in the back of the field. We'll see if Liam's able to improve that team's outlook. Ooh, that's not going to help. Let's take a look here at where we are in the order. Top down, James Juba leading the Drillers train with a fairly dominating 30-second lead over top of Jan Vaznica in second place, also running for Drillers. You see there's Jan. Very abusive on the curbs there through Alta. Rob Moore is the first non-Drillers team, but also a very sizable outfit, running in the Seawolves net race car. They are number 47. And then skipping down to Danny Robbins, another Drillers team, one of 5 in third place. And you get to one of the first VSRA teams. Now this is actually the SMR Corkscrew Motorsports. It's an American-based outfit. Lazaros Philippakos was the original driver here and has switched over to Usasui Emumen. And they've been able to hold pretty well. They've come up through the field, currently sitting in 5th place, but they're a little bit of a ways away, about 7 seconds or so. So they have a chance of getting up close to Danny Robbins. In fact, 3rd through 5th, they're all not too far away from each other, around 10 seconds apiece, give or take a few seconds. And then you have a pretty sizable jump back to another one of the Drillers' entries, the Sebastian Johansson car, number 21. He's around 40 seconds away. Calvin Reinert in 7th place now. Jay Hatch was driving that car and was up to 2nd, doing fairly well. So they've just slipped back. Grimelli was going to have a chance to have a good showing, but it's not over. Still an hour and 26 minutes left. Carlos Pons right behind him, and this is for position. So the gentlemen drivers have increased their position. They were at the back of the grid. They had an early penalty for something to do with qualifying, but they've been able to just stay consistent and work their way up the order. So they're currently in 8th place and potentially ready to take 7th away from Calvin Reinhardt. We'll come back to that in just a second and see how they're doing there. Marius Sutterlin, one of the other Drillers' cars, back in 9th place. And Toko looks like is right there with him. So another battle. This Vaznika is right there, sort of sandwiched between them, so he can hold it up. Oh, and Hakimi having some problems. Hakimi's engine is dead, blowed up. The car is on fire and running down the backstretch. I can't see anything useful happening with this entry. That's unbelievable. So they pull off onto the side of the road, but that engine is gone. The only other driver was Martin Farkas left on the grid. He's chasing down Marius Sutterlin, but he's got a way to go. Over 48 seconds spanning between those drivers. So Hakimi has DNF'd. And it looks like that's lap 96. So a very unfortunate turn of events. Sebastian Johansson now in the pits. Liam Rance coming out of the treacherous Minerali and seems to have been caught out and slowed. Oh! And Joe Binsbergen turned around. Appears as though that incident was in total isolation. I don't believe there was any help by anybody there. Just waiting for that replay to load up and we'll take a peek at what happened. very fast entry, but still held. Binsberg, oh, just getting up on the strip. That's a hard hit into the wall. Again, a very tough place to be stopped. That team's still holding second place. Isaac Morris is now in for Ernest Lappins in first. No, I apologize. That's not the case. Sorry, getting a little bit of pulling up the wrong information there. Isaac Morris is up in first in LMP2. Too many screens. So, yeah, Lappin's still holding a sizable lead, even more sizable now. Although he's been in that car for a while, and Tony Nickpon should have been in there. So again, unless they're doing some kind of local driver swap, you see both leaders right there, Morris and Lappins together. They didn't make contact, running very close together though. So not sure if Lappins is going to swap out just before the end. He's going to have to do it on the next pit stop, which will be in about 20 minutes or less. I believe it's 75%. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that you can't drive more than 75% of the race as a driver. So if Lappins comes in and swaps, it'll have to be this time, or else that team will be disqualified. Be a pretty big disappointment for them after getting such a great lead. I mean, they're effectively. I'm just trying to get an update here. They're basically a lap ahead of the rest of the field. So that's fairly impressive for a 4-hour race. We usually don't see that in the GTE field. Some of the LMP2 field, you'll get that just because those cars are so much faster. So if anything happens, I mean, like you could have a spin with an LMP2 and they'll lose so much more of a gap to the next driver versus GTEs. The two VSRA cars front to back, and then Strand for the solo racing team. This group has been up and down. Roger Decline falling back down the pack has certainly benefited them, as they are now on the podium. They're still fairly far away from the VSRA cars, but not too far actually. Just checking on this, it looks like Strand is around 3 seconds. Yep, there is that Corvette. Time is updating. He's improving that time, so he's closing in. This is heating up. Okay, we'll come back to that in just a second. Ben Crooks losing a position to Roger Decline, as you can see him go through. We'll hop back up into the grid here. So Pasquale, oh, somebody's off there. A bait again. I'm going to shortcut the final corner a bit. Maybe you got wide. Just going through the sand trap. Setterlin having a moment. Yeah, Setterlin and Toko. Is it Toko? Sebastian Johansson. is the car ahead of him, and Niklas, where are you? Nicholas Probodnik is the next car to him. So Sutherland passing Nicholas, who's taken over from Marcelo Tocco after the last round. It's going to put him up into 9th place. See Pons back there. He's coming up through. Carlos Pons is in 7th, so that group will be fairly far apart. Let's quickly hop back in here. So we've got Pascal Eggert, who's chasing down Christian Pasquale up ahead. So those two are a decent ways apart from each other, but not too far away. Just a mistake by Pasquale will be enough to send him back. Looking at Vermeer in the sister TCS car. And that one has been doing remarkably well by comparison. But they are still running 6th place, and Vermeer is around 15 seconds behind Eggert, 21 seconds behind him, Sven Laumann, the 3rd VSRA car in GTE, and Tomas Garcia is back here for OSR, about 7 or 8 seconds behind. Behind him is fellow teammate Jurin, who's running in the Corvette, also not far behind. Liam Rance and DDoS trying to close that gap up as much as he can. Oh, and that's not going to help at all. This corner's continuing to get slippery. Roger Decline, after running up in 2nd place for a portion of the race, has fallen well down the order. And again, my guess is that was a disconnect. Not sure. Ben Crooks is another one that's fallen from grace just because they were up there fighting it out in the single digits. Saw some really great racing with him and others. Getting a note from Isaac Morris being off track and slowing down. And that's allowed Vaznika to close in. So you've got drillers 1, 2, and 3, although Rob Moore is way far behind. In fact, they'll be catching him before too long. That's Sutherland. Looked like Sutherland was going for a pass. Nice cut to the inside by Wozniak. Oh, no, it was Jan who was basically getting around Marius. No reason to put pressure there. 19, 18. And it looks like the Gentleman Racers car was just off the track in the background. Eric Strawn right on the back of that Corvette now. This is GTE, 2nd place. So Strawn making hay while the sun's shining. When life gives you lemonades, you go for 2nd place. Strawn staying very close. We've seen this kind of aggressive racing from him before. Certainly not making contact or anything, but he's just really pushing the car. He really wants that 2nd place. Binsbergen looks pretty settled. to just kind of be running his race. Now he is being somewhat defensive. He's not trying too hard right now. He's just trying to keep his pace, which is still pretty good, but Strawn is obviously right there with him. Robbins getting by these two doesn't seem to hold them up all that much as they go down into the final complex of turns. And he's close enough to grab a really strong pull, so that should give him enough. He's going to dive to the left side, which will give him the inside as they head down into the 2-3-4 complex. Reinhardt trying to get through because he wants to get up there to Danny Robbins. It's just a bad spot for it, side by side. Oh, and he just can't quite complete the pass. Now Robbins is going to lose a position, but he's going to lose more than that. So Reinhardt was trying to chase down Danny Robbins, but now he's about to get lapped. He was thrown unceremoniously to the side, and really, I mean, that was Reinhardt's. I mean, it was his own doing. He couldn't really do much to get around that battle. It was still unfolding. Binsbergen now gets totally passed, and Strawn is going to pull away just based on his previous pace. So we should be seeing these GTE drivers coming in very soon. Strawn is back. He's in second place, but he's about... Can't even see the split because Lappins is so far off ahead. So here's Reinhardt coming through again. Oh, is that Morris? Who's off track there? Yeah, that was our leader. Coming up on this group. Is that Juba who's coming through? So they split the difference. Not sure why those two are getting as aggressive as they are. And that's actually, oh, that's for the lead, that's why. Because Vaznica and Morris are right together, so this is a battle for the lead of LMP2 as they're heavy into GTE traffic. Both those cars have front ends that are looking less than dapper. Garcia now loses out to his teammate. This is 9th and 10th, so this is actually, I think, just right ahead of the leaders, yeah. Calvin Reinhardt now trying to get by. So just those two trying to pull just a little bit of draft there. So on board now with Vaznica. Looking ahead to leader Morris. Vaznica is on the attack through Villeneuve. Does he get a good run off of here? He does, and that's a terrible mistake by Morris. He keeps it going. He still has the inside. Ooh, when he tucks back in, it's a strong cut to the right, almost like he was trying to hit him. maybe the car was just getting away from him, but he's definitely fallen back and is losing pace. So a change for the lead as Morris falls back from first and Woznicka takes the lead. Good clean pass, great racing. Just checking and watching Woznicka's car to see if it's out of sorts at all. They'll be coming into pit in probably the next 15 to 20 minutes. GTE should be in within the next 5 or so minutes, depending on how well they've been able to conserve fuel. The Rogier decline situation, so they're up to 10th. Still a far cry from the second place that they were holding on to previously. That Corvette is still 84 seconds away from any appreciable traffic. Garcia, Jurin, Mirzik is up there with the 2 OSR cars. And they're right together, so he would be able to take advantage of that. Same with Sven Laumann and the VSRA guest car. So I guess those are the guest cars, so that was my mistake that those were just generic paint schemes. They're actually not VSRA teams. So thanks for clearing that up. Just ahead of decline, we've got Calvin Reinert. So he's behind Woznicka. That's not for position. He's down in 6th. He was looking to grab 4th away from Danny Robbins, but there was nothing he could do about it. Teammate Martin Farkas is down in 11th. So Gramelli with a little more heartache to carry on for the season. But it's not over. We still have over an hour left. And speaking of, Isaac Morris having a big slide. I believe that's through Villeneuve, yes. So coming up through Topaz. Sorry, Tosa. Mixing up some corner names there. So not only does that car look secondhand, but it seems to be having some trouble as well. Either that or Isaac simply just overdrove that one corner, which is entirely possible. As we see him still struggling. Coming up towards Laumann, gets by him. As well, another interesting story throughout the race. This team was one of the ones that was fighting with the other Porsches. There's the Scuderia Porsche, and then there was the I don't know if it was a Solo Racing or if I'm thinking of the OSR Endurance car. It might have been TCS off. It was a while ago, but there was the three-way battle there, and that was actually back mid-pack. He's up to 4th. This is, Robert Moore swings around the side of him, not quite sure. And Pasquale coming up on the inside of Nick Pon. I believe that's our leader. And Tony Nickpon. So they have been in, and that should be their final stop for the race. It looks like Reinhardt is having some more problems. Getting down in 6th. So Lappins is finally out. Looks like he made it just in time. Jurand is in, speaking of. So he's back in 7th. Now this should be one of the last stops of the race. It's going to be hard to make it to the end because we're going to come in just under an hour once he takes off. Five DNFs so far, 25 drivers remaining. 33 seconds, and Jurand is off. Sven Laumann right there has actually pulled the pass, although I believe he's going to have to come in just a moment. So the 8th and 9th right there on screen for GTE. Mark Vermeer and Calvin Reinhardt look like they are into pit. And then in the back of the pack, it looks like Tunbridge is trying to make a pass on Crooks. A little bit of a lockup there. Sasui going through. So this is for 11th and 12th. So Crooks is in. Been getting service. I think he's going to have to do a driver swap. I'm trying to remember if his teammate was actually in the car, Michael Reed. I don't recall him being in there. So if he comes out of the pits and he's still in the car, either they're doing a real life local driver swap, or Ben could potentially be driving over his limit. So still showing Ben Crooks. Don't have that info in front of me as to whether or not they're doing a local swap. And that is a penalty for Crooks. I believe that's for speeding. So the crestfallen Crooks having the day stolen away from him once again. And that's probably going to put him in last place of cars running once he has to come back through and serve that. Second place Joe Binsbergen is in. So that's SMR Corkscrew Motorsport. Not related to Kebab Racing Team, which features Lappins and Nippon, who are currently our leaders. Even though the paint schemes are similar, they are just using the guest generics. Just taking a look at some of the live standings here to see where drivers are. Roger Decline is now trying to make a move on Tunbridge. And that should happen easily based on Alex's most recent performance. Just does not quite have some of the same pace. And just ahead of this group, Garcia was having some problems. So even though they're quite a ways back, that should that's not playing well for Garcia. And his teammate Juren is actually now closing in on Sven Laumann. Things starting to heat up in the final hour now. Pascal Eggert out of the pits. Some unusual circumstances for that team. They're up to 5th. This is really great for them actually because they've tried very hard. Adriatica have been up and down the order throughout some of the seasons, as we see Alex Tunbridge now getting past. There is Roger Decline going by as predicted. Fortunately, those two giving each other plenty of room. No problems there. Ben Crooks now back in. Not sure what this stop is for. So, stop and go for something. Just trying to take a peek here at some of the decisions. There was an issue with SMR Corkscrew 84 and Drillers 19. There's a warning to the drillers. There's a drive-through for the 221 of TCS off, causing a collision with one of the drillers. Number 44 Racing had a drive-through penalty for causing a collision, but that doesn't seem to have hurt them all that much. That was a little while ago. About half an hour previous. So Laumann actually coming up through, making the pass stick, on. There's the leader, so everyone's sort of on top of each other at the moment. Johansson just squeaking by. As they head into that tricky uphill corner. Bait is now out, and Nicola's been having a hell of a race. A little bit of a problem there. Is that Nikon, he might have just been getting out of the way, preserving the race. Probably a smart move. Just let these guys go by and do all the hard driving while he just sort of capitalizes on the gift he's been given by Ernest Lappins. See the Gramelli car of Farkas going in to take his probably not final, excuse me, not the final stop, but because they'll need another splash and go before the end, so they may try and split that up. So as we are now in the, watching this here, I'm under attack by Jurand. Kuzmierzyk is very aggressively hounding the back of that Beamer. Getting very strong runs out of these corners and certainly staying enough distance behind that you can get the slipstream. Yeah, not a great spot to try and get that past an Altas, especially from that far back. But he's trying to nose up onto the left side for the rundown to Riaza. He's there. Oh, they're gonna make contact. Bit of a short run off the inside. Lauman's going to get a little bit more of a run off. That's a drag race. Down to turn one, still some overlap. Lauman has to pull out a little bit early to keep from running to the back of Jurand. Makes it through. That is now for, I believe that is 7th place, that's right. Johansson actually having some issues in the background. Running 6th place. Get up here at our leader Jan Buznika, who's coming through Garcia, back in 9th. Should see, yeah, I was gonna say we should be seeing one final pit stop coming through. Now that's pretty close on fuel to make it to the end at 48 minutes. It's possible. You can do it. It'll be tight. So tires changed for the leader. Just curious if he'll get passed by Isaac Morris. Although I believe Morris is going to have to come in also. So while the drivers are going through and doing their final stops, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but we will be back very shortly. I'm just going to kind of get things set for the very end, but stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, and we are back with the final hour of action, actually just a little bit less than. And this will be a run into the end. So still some LMP2 drivers coming through and getting their final stops in. Sasui Amumwin is now in there. Seeing lots of drivers looking potentially at coming. So there's Johansson. In a rather underwhelming 8th place for how well they've been able to drive in the past. We're seeing that up and down the order. Sven Laumann was having a pretty strong day earlier. Still a respectable 8th, but not as well as they had been hoping. Mari Setterlin is in now. And they are running in 10th place, so they've also fallen well off the order. Isaac Morris, our second place LMP2 driver, another drillers team, as you can see, just pulling in. Nick Pon looked like he had a bit of a moment there. That's our current leader. Anthony Nick Pon is running an indomitable race at the front of the field, thanks in no small part to Ernest Lappins, who basically had lapped the field. Now that has been undone, and Eric Strawn and the solo racing Porsche number 14 is around 70 seconds behind. So very unlikely that we'll see anything happen there. But I don't want to say too much because the commentator's curse is real, and we have seen plenty of races so far this year that were all but done. Let me see. Farkas having some problems at Alta. Yeah, we've had more than a fair share of races that have ended in ruins when they were almost assured victory from multi-laps ahead of the field. But currently looking pretty good to take home the cup at the end of the race. Carlos Pons, gentlemen drivers, they've had something of a bit of an up and down. They started in the back again because of an early race penalty. Actually, it was a qualifying penalty. Oh boy, I'm very out of sorts. Trying to stay off of TCS. Bate already having problems throughout the race. Currently, Nicola is down in 14th in class. Just struggling with that car almost as much as Ferrari. As we see Setterlin back in the pits. I didn't see Setterlin get a penalty for anything. The number 19 has been warned, which is actually our leader, Jan Voznica, and that's for an incident involving the SMR corkscrew number 84, which I believe is one of the the GTEs. Just trying to find them in the field, but that's going to be one of the VSRA guest cars, unfortunately, so it's going to be hard to find in live timing. And Ben Crooks getting another penalty. It didn't look like that was revolving around a pit stop, so I'm guessing that's for track extensions. I'm not seeing anything on the stewards' announcements for a penalty being issued there. So yet another major disappointment for that team. And he's not going in, so they might be appealing it. Or they're just trying to sort out what the penalty's for, if they even know they have it. I've seen a few drivers who weren't even aware that they've received a penalty in the past, whether knowingly or playing games. So while we're into almost the last 30 minutes of the race, we'll do a quick rundown through the order. Jan Voznica running the number 19 Drillers LMP, leading the way and doing a fairly good job of it. They were very close with Isaac Morris a little bit earlier in the race. Fellow teammate in the number 20. Right there, going way wide. In that corner, Minerali has been major trouble for a lot of teams. Oh, Skypala having some problems, it seems. 12th place Scudero Porsche, but they seem to have that gathered up. So anyway, Isaac Morris was up here in second place, gunning for the lead. Had a bit of a problem, has just been falling backwards in time ever since. Still over 40 seconds ahead of third place Osasui Emumen, but still far and away over 60 seconds away from first place Jan. Speaking of, there is the third place team. And that's another SMR Corkscrew team, the LMP2 side of things, being piloted by Lazaros Philippakos. Sorry, Philippakos. Had to look at the spotter guide on that one. And then you've got Danny Robbins down in fourth place, another Drillers team. He is currently lapped, and so Jan is actually getting ready to lap the that Corkscrew team, leaving just two Drillers cars on the lead lap. Now Danny Robbins is about 10 seconds or so behind Osasui. Rob Moore about the same distance behind him. A bit unfortunate story for the Seawolf Net Race Motorsport teams, because they were running up very close to the front of the field, and they've just started to slip back. Rob Moore was further up the order, and he's still holding station at fifth, doing a fairly good job there. Calvin Reinert would have been up there battling for fourth, but he was caught up in some GTE traffic, was trying to be patient, was under pressure by Moore, and just kind of got slipped up. I think that was through Villeneuve where they had their issue, and he just lost a position and his chance at trying to strike at fourth. Carlos Pons with the Gentleman Drivers, I should say, up into seventh place. And I believe they're a German team? No, a Spanish team. Apologies to that group. But we had Marco Antonio Rodriguez. And Rodriguez did a pretty good job, although he had his moments. Again, driving up from the back of the field at the start of the race. Literally the very back of the field. I can't remember if Lopez has been in the car. I think he has. But good job by that team in being able to make the most of what was a potentially very damaging race. Johansson, another Drillers team, in eighth. They've been pretty steady here. Not really too much in the way of competition for them on either side. They're about 37 seconds behind Pons and about a minute ahead of Nicholas Probodnik in the other Seawolf entry. Right there. You can see all alone with no one around them in ninth. 10th place is Marius Sutherland. He was further up the order, but doing not so bad in 10th. Marius up there with teammate Tom Davison, who was doing fairly well at the beginning, but he had kind of a rocky start as well. They're being chased by Martin Farkas. who are about 30 seconds back. So pretty sizable gaps. Now we are going to see a couple last minute splash and gas kind of runs towards the end for the LMP2s. Looked like there might have been an issue with the 75 DDoS entry, but we'll be back to them in just a moment as we go back through the rest of the field. Back to Martin Farkas, who is the last LMP2 driver running in the field. We did have Hakimi, whose engine we saw blew up several laps ago, and Pon Robert very early on going out. Actually, the first LMP2 to drop out of the race, that G-Force Racing team. Sorry, Robert Pon. And Daniel Pon, assuming a sibling or a family member. So that's it for the LMP2 field. Not too much competition up and down the order. Everyone fairly far away from each other. Danny Robbins may have a go here at the podium if he's able to close that gap down with the Sasui in the corkscrew ride. Looking at the GTEs, Antoni Nikpan, first place for a while thanks to Ernest Lappens, who basically has dominated this field. That gap, though, is coming down pretty quickly. Eric Strawn now 40 seconds away as we are in the last 30 minutes of the race. Probably not going to be able to close in enough to do anything with it. Sort of a problem there. Not as we just talking about, and Antoni. Possibly just a fluke. That cost him some time, though. Definitely a few seconds, whatever that distraction was. It almost looked like he was getting a bit of some server lag as he's got some LMP2s pushing up through him. Sasui trying to get up through there. Now that is not for position. Hemuman is up in third, but that's Johansson, who's down in eighth. It's about to go around. Robbins, however, as you saw coming in the screen right there, that is for position. And he's now about 5 seconds away. So traffic slowing down the podium placer. We may have a race on our hand at the very end. In second place, Eric Strand, who's been having a hell of a race, been involved in several battles, and has just fought his way up into second, as has his teammate, Linus Lundvall, who had a very strong beginning to the race. Good-looking car, a very strong team, but do they have enough to close that gap down? They're now about 34, 35 seconds away. Anything's possible. In third place is Gel Binsbergen. And Gel is been doing a fairly good job. Another team that's just kind of risen up through the field and has held that position pretty well. They're actually half the distance to Strand as Strand is to Nikpan. So podium is not set in stone as of yet, and as we're seeing Nikpan having some issues off and on, that could mean anything come to the end of the race. Sarazi back in fourth place. This team has had a very exciting race as well. The Blue Bolt Academy ride driven by his teammate Christian Pasquale. Been showing up here for the Italian Grand Prix, but that team definitely representing on what should be a home track. But that 991 is a strong contender. They currently are about 30 seconds away from any podium position cars, so they're basically just trying to do what they can to bring home this fourth and not lose it to Pascal Eggert, who is now about 14 seconds. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's position behind Hugevin. So they're also about 30 seconds away. So not really close enough to do anything either, unless there's a big mistake by any of the drivers ahead. But Eggert has been having a very good race overall, been very racy with the rest of the group. And they'd be fairly pleased, I imagine, for a fifth. I'm sure they felt they could have done a little bit better, but certainly not anything to scoff at. Hugevin is down there in 17th overall, 6th place for TCS off. Now, another team that you can tell it's starting to get to the end a little bit. Drivers are just ready to get this done, and while still putting all they have into it. But down there in 6th place, they've had some fights of their own. I'm sure that they would have wished for a slightly better result, even if 6th is all they pull out of it. But certainly the team behind them, Rogier Decline, we'll get to in just a moment, would have also wished for a better finish to what is turning out to be a not great race. And 7th is Jurin Kuzmirzik, and they've had a very exciting race as well, up and down the order. That teammate of his, John Nelson, again, the Spanish OSR endurance racing team. They've been quite racy up and down. It looked like they were going to be one of the top contenders, and certainly a 6th or 7th place is okay, but they definitely had a stronger car for more than that. Sven Laumann in, our leader again, slowing down and losing some time. Looks like he might have just had a lockup going through one of the corners. I think he's starting to nurse that car. Hopefully he's got enough of a buffer that they're not able to lose too much, but you can see the way in the background there, they are closing in. Eric Strand is not going to let him just walk off with the win. Sorry, so again, we're talking about Sven Laumann, 8th place. They've had to work for some of that position, but have they caught up to... no, they have not. So going back, in 20th overall, 9th place, Thomas Garcia. This team definitely wanted to be further up the field. They certainly were early on, and they just kept falling backwards. Hugo Tempez, Garcia's teammate, was doing very well early on, but just not able to really make much out of it. And we keep seeing notifications for Nippon of just slowing down below race pace at spots. Take a look at the timing difference, and it's under 10 seconds now. So Eric Strand is closing in, 23 minutes left. I have no idea what's going on with Anthony's car, but he needs to kind of just buckle down and focus, or that Porsche is going to be right up his tail. You can see under braking, he seems to really be having some struggles, especially right there at Alta. Now that gap down to 7 seconds. So Eric Strand is very hungry. We'll quickly get through the rest of this field so we can keep an eye on this battle going on here. Rogier Decline, who's right behind the leader, who's locking up, abusing those tires even more. Decline was up into second place earlier on in the race from work by Yuri Gikson, who has done a fantastic job of getting that car through the field. And the race has kind of fallen apart after they were climbing up past some pit stops. I think they had a disconnection. I haven't been able to check if that was the case or not. But Roger Decline is a whole 50 seconds, almost an entire minute behind Garcia of OSR. There's probably no chance that they're going to be able to improve their position beyond 10th at this point. Alex Tunbridge behind them in DDoS, probably not able to do much with that position either. They've had a very lackluster race. He and fellow pilot Liam Rance just not able to do anything with it. Skypala sliding through. Boy, almost losing it there at the Rivaza corner. This team has struggled a little bit. The lesser of the two Scuderia rides. They haven't done too much wrong. They just haven't had the pace. It's a shame to see, but they might. Oh, so we see Isaac Morris in second place, starting to wipe out right in front of Ben Crooks, who's already had a hell of a day. They were well up the order. They were driving up through the field. They had a very strong car, and we saw some great challenges that they were posting with some teams that were in the mid to upper pack. And thanks to a combination of some penalties and a crash where they lost the back wing, they fell way down the order, and they kept slipping into the abyss. So a very disappointing day. 13th right now, 24th overall. And I believe that they're one of the last cars running. I guess we have a Bait who, again, they've a similar story where they were a little bit further up the field and they just quickly plummeted. Their descent happened a little earlier on in the race, and they just have not been able to come back. And they seem to have struggles with pace in that car, struggles with stability. The 991 is just it can be a difficult car, especially if you're not happy with the setup or if you have damage. We're seeing some cars coming into the pits, and there was a change for the lead. Eric Strand is now our leader, and I believe I did see Anthony Nickpon come into the pits, and he is now back to third place. So Strand with Solo Racing is up to first. Joe Binbergen is now up to second. That gap between first to second is about 20 seconds, second to third about 17. So Ernest Lappin's amazing race has just come undone within the last hour, and truly within the last 30 minutes, as we saw Anthony just having constant lockups, and he's still struggling with that car. Beginning of his stint didn't seem all that bad, so I'm not sure what's going on there. He just doesn't look comfortable with it. Keeping an eye on Sarazi, who is the next car down, 17 seconds away. That gap seems to be staying somewhat steady. So Nickpon doesn't look like he's in jeopardy of falling off the podium, but I didn't think that he was going to lose first either. So with under 20 minutes to go, there's still a chance that something could happen there. Oh, and a Bait is off. Looks like it's after one of the chicanes. Looks like it's actually the same spot where I think it was Tom Nelson had gotten stuck. and in a similar fashion, just having a really hard time getting that thing straightened out. Bate just doing what he can to not get in everyone else's way. I mean, he doesn't have anything to gain by pulling out into traffic and trying to run away with it. I mean, he's already well behind. So it looked like there might have been some small server issues for them, so it's possible that that came into play. But we'll take a look at our leader. At Solo Racing, Eric Strand done a phenomenal job all day. I mean, that team has just, they have fought hard for that position. And they had a lot of things go their way, as we saw with Anthony Nickpon. Without that team kind of falling off, they would not have been able to be up to first. But it took a lot of coordinated effort, a lot of consistency, and hard driving to be able to just get in position to take advantage of that, and they did it. Now they just have to hold on to it. They've got a 20-second lead over Gel, so they should be able to keep that together. I haven't really seen anything from Stan that would suggest that he would just lose it or throw this race away by accident. And he pushes the car hard, but he still seems to be able to wrestle it and keep it under control. Looking up here, Isaac Morris, who is now about 100 seconds behind Jan Vaznica, who is our current leader in LMP2. And Isaac is about 16 seconds away from getting caught by Lasasui, although I say getting caught as though Danny Robbins isn't already on the back of him. So this is for the podium position, very tail end. Danny Robbins really wants to get up there and get that driller's podium lockout. And I believe that is the Corkscrew team, if I recall correctly. Yeah, SMR Corkscrew Motorsport. Filipakos was the other driver of the team who helped get them up the order. Asasui and Mumin. Amumwen? Ah. Amumwen. Thank you. He's been holding on fairly well, but he is now under attack. And I don't know if under 14 minutes left. We still have yet to see which of these LMP2 drivers has enough fuel to make it to the end. A little bit of traffic there with Skypala. Oh, and he gets into the back of him. Morris touching the back, or sorry, Danny Robbins getting into the back. That's going to take a huge bucket load of pressure off. He just closed up a little bit too fast. I think Asasui just let off a little bit more than what he was expecting. Martin Farkas is in, and there's a change in position with Reinhardt, so he's fallen back. Johansson is now up into 6th place. So Reinhardt once again falls back some more. He wanted to be up there fighting with Danny Robbins. I don't know that he'd have been able to keep up with him, but at least with Rob Moore. Speaking of Danny Robbins, we'll kind of look back here. So he hasn't fallen away too much, but that was getting pretty lively. Oh boy, I'll let it hang out there. Up through Tosa, heading towards Piratella. And then down the hill towards the very tricky Minerali. That corner has just tripped up so many drivers throughout the race. Past Garcia of OSR. Spanish team doing fairly well. Trying to hold station back there at trying to find where they are actually. Garcia's in ninth. Just keeping an eye on this. They're coming into traffic. It doesn't look like it's been able to hold them up, although Sarazi's going to hold up Robbins right here. It's really going to compromise that line out of the first complex of Tamburello. Doesn't seem to have thrown him off too much. He's actually right there still. That's second place right there. Is that actually is? Yeah, so something happened with Isaac Morris. So this is 2, 3, and 4. He's through. So that's second place up through the order. And now Morris off track. What the hell happened with Morris? Looks like he had a spin before. Ooh, and Robbins is sliding around. There's a penalty for Danny Robbins. I think that's for cutting the course, but it looked like that was sort of undeserved as he just got way loose through the corner. That should be waived. Oh, and oh no! Osasui now goes off. Go back and take a look at what happened there. So he's tucked up and underneath one of the back markers of GTE. Oh, Nick Pon. Actually, that was our former leader. And then he just gets nailed by Morris. So you see a couple of the GTEs going evasive behind. And so he's actually, I don't know if he got a penalty or if he was actually going in there just to get service. So a crazy turn of events. Crook's having some issues. Morris now is under attack, and he is going to lose a position to Robbins. So Robbins, who is running in fourth, finds himself second place. So drillers 1, 2, and 3 holding a lock on the podium. Jan Vaznica is showed him into the pits, and he is into the pits. So like I said, we've got some cars that are able to make it to the end. It looked like he was going to be just short. Now he has an enormous lead. It's well over 100 seconds, so he has nothing to lose really here. Calvin Reinhardt is right on to the back of Johansson, so another driller's car is under attack. and Rob Moore. So I think, oh, sorry, Rob Moore is with Seawolves. Saw him in the background there. Too many Drillers cars. I thought maybe they might have had fourth as well, but Imumwin is probably really upset as we see a change for position. So Reinhardt and oh, Johansson, he's flashing the lights. Doing a big slide. He's trying to run away with it. Watch that again. Was there contact between the two? Out of Topaz. They're side by side. Reinhardt tucks in behind. Up the inside. They do make contact. It's tough to say from that angle. Reinhardt got the position. Sebastian Shaw not happy about how it was done. We'll have to check and see if there are any penalties that come about. And Nick Pan is so third place, our former leader. He's continuing to have some issues. Does that lose him enough time? And I think that is Sarazi for position. It is. So he's just a second behind him. He is about to fall off the podium. And Sarazi, who has been fighting hard throughout the race, as well as his teammate, they're about to get that Italian team up on the podium. So Christian Pasquale working really hard at the front end of the day to just get up there, and now Luca Sarazi, he sees his chance to get some silverware. Where did he go? What happened to Salvazzi? He had a bit of a moment. He was closing in. I didn't see what happened to him. He just caught the curb. Okay, so he just basically lost some time. I don't think he hit the wall. Heavily disappointing. And we're under 5 minutes to go, so he won't be able to make that up. Oh, maybe he does have some damage as he comes into the pits. Sarazi with all those gains at the last minute, that's going to fly out the window. Pascal Eggert is not far behind, about 30 seconds or so, so this needs to be a quick stop if he's going to have a chance of even retaining that fourth. So where he thought he was about to get on the podium, that's quickly done a 180. Fortunately, he didn't. Might just be that the tires were too far off. I don't think he should need any fuel. Eggert is closing in. There he is. You can see him just to the right as the name tag popped up. Just needs to not speed. There he goes. So Sarazi back to fifth. Sorry, now sixth. He's lost 2 positions. He didn't get a speeding penalty. And Jern is by. So Sarazi, who was looking at a third, has fallen to 7th. And is now off the track. I don't know what happened there. Seems to be having severe issues with the car. Oh, Isaac Morris is around. So he might have been avoiding some of that. What happened to Isaac Morris? So you saw him go off, coming down to, I believe that's Villeneuve, really fast through there. Yeah. So Morris in second place just goes around. Still not sure why Sarazi was way. Spent more part of that lap off track than on. Oh. So that has actually cost Isaac Morris second place. Sarazi's still going off track behind. Danny Robbins now up into second. So I have no idea what Sarazi is doing. Didn't think he still had some damage. We do have a battle between Hugavine, who's now finding himself in fourth place, and Eggert, who's right behind. And Jurin Kuzmirzik is right there with him, so another three-way battle. He's a little further back, but that Corvette's right there, and he's ready to pick up the pieces of any kind of jousting that happens between these two. Danny Robbins going through, trying to thread the needle with that second place that he's now finding himself with. He's right between them through that tricky, tricky turn at Minerali. Blue flags are waving. Not sure many eyes are paying attention to him. Ooh, big luck. I didn't even see Roger Decline in a mix that group of cars. He's still back in 10th place, so he's out of contention for any gains from this, unless drivers go completely out. But that is going to be time. Where is our leader? Strand. I'm not sure if he crossed the line beforehand. Doesn't look like it. I think we've got one more lap to go. He's certainly driving like it. There's your decline. And Bergen now going through. Hugavine now loses that position, so just because the leader was not in front right at the line. Now showing second place Gel taking the position. So Hugavine is going to fight back as hard as he can, as is Jurin. So this is a battle for third, fourth, and fifth. Oh, they make contact. Topaz and Hugavine loses another position. Reinhardt and Farkas are off. I'm not sure if that is on purpose or not. I don't show them as finishing. Okay, so they're dicking around. So Hugavine is trying his damnedest to get back up there. Pons and Setterlund swap places right at the end. So that's back at the back of the pack. So this is for fourth and fifth. There's still racing going on, guys. Just make sure you're out of the way. So through the final corners, Eggert is going to pick up fourth. I don't know that there's going to be enough of a charge. He does have some slipstream, but they are going to cross the line in that order. Oh, make sure you get up there. There you go. That was the closest finish. I don't think he realized where he was, but they hadn't actually crossed the line yet. So Hugavine barely behind. And that was, I think, the closest finish possible without him realizing it. So Eric Strand is your winner for the GTEs. A very close race. That thing was crazy at the end. Jan Vaznica, out of nowhere, getting a win after after a hard-fought race. Danny Robbins, second place, out of nowhere, as you see the Gramelli cars playing some games. Emmy Wynn coming back and just barely getting third. Unbelievable finish for those guys, just coming in at the very end with the way that the pit stops and everything went. Rob Moore in fourth, Isaac Morris fifth. So those driller teams up there, as are the Seawolf guys. Calvin Reinhardt sixth, unfortunately falling back. Sebastian Johansson seventh. Nicholas Pobadnik, Martin Farkas, Marius Sutherland, Pons finish out the field. So Strawn, there is your winner. Those guys must be absolutely thrilled with that result after just an incredible race. Joe Binsbergen, another good race. Those guys did a very good job staying with it throughout the whole way in that Corvette. Nick Pon, very disappointed, I'm sure, after having that first place in the bag for a while, getting knocked off. Eggert with a very surprise last-minute push into fourth. As we saw, Jurin was right there with him, who barely finished ahead of Hugavine, who was right there with them. And that was a great last lap battle. I mean, those guys were about as aggressive as you'd expect with everything on the line. Sven Laumann coming up there in 18th, 7th place for the group. Garcia in 8th, Roger Decline in 9th. So a very, very great race. We've got so with the two Italian runs out of the way, we have the 4 hours of Spa coming up next for on the 16th of May. So excellent run to the end. Apparently we had some sound issues where the audio cut out, so I apologize for that. But thank you for staying with us, and thank you everyone, drivers, for the exceptional job you've done, for the to the coordinators for everything that they've done, and just kind of taking a look here at the point standings. This was going into the race, so Imola not calculated yet, but you can see where LMP2 is sitting right now, and we'll have some changes there for sure. Drillers will probably stay at the top there. We'll see a couple more come through. Seawolf doing a good job keeping some points. Gramelli should stay up there. And then looking over at the GTE side of things, it's it was Scuderia at the top. They should be able to retain some of those points, but Solo will definitely be rising up through the ranks on that one after that really strong finish. So yes, you know, we again thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.